One of the biggest mistakes our small business owners make, and most businesses make in general when they're hiring, is they hire for today's revenue and demands of the business versus the future business of the revenue. And this is one way you can really keep yourself stuck. So if you think you might be having that problem and you want to know how to overcome it, you're going to want to listen to our show today.
Welcome to the Key Hire Small Business Podcast, hosted by Corey Harlock, creator of Key Hire Solutions, where small business owners learn how to build stronger teams, simplify growth, and scale confidently. Got feedback or topic ideas? Send us a text. If you're listening on a handheld device, tap the link in the show notes to message the show. Subscribe or follow on your favorite platform, and follow Key Hire Solutions on social media for more insights and updates between episodes. To learn more about how Key Hire can help scale your business, visit keyhire.solutions. Connect with Corey on LinkedIn through the link in the show notes. Mention you're a listener, and he'll accept your request. And now, on with the show. Here's your host, Corey Harlock.
Before we dive into the show today, I just want to review some comments because our episode with Jeff Birmingham on how to be present and aware in your business has gotten so many comments. So I just wanted to give some shout outs as we go here. So Alberto S said it was a solid foundation, prevents costly pivots before A-round discussions even start. Thank you, Alberto. Brian B, he said those tough moments hit different when you're running a business, like missing a big client or getting that brutal feedback email. But yeah, they definitely show you exactly where you need to work on yourself. Thanks so much, Brian. Amir F said, understanding our triggers is vital for growth. Transform each challenge into a learning opportunity. So thank you, everyone, for commenting. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode with Jeff Birmingham, go back. I think it's like 2 or 3 episodes ago, and just all about how to be present and aware in your business. Gives you some good health and mental health tips and tricks. All right, let's get into it here today. How do you hire for capacity, your growing business, versus how do you and stop hiring for the current demands of your business? So just some statistics around this that might be interesting for you to know. Bad hires cost a lot of money. Conservative estimates are, 20, 30, 50% of their total base salary. If you look at things like Brad Smart's estimations, he can say it can be 2, 3, 500% that person's annual salary based on how high and how impactful they are in your business. 36% productivity drop you get when you make the wrong hire. So your good people just stop working as hard, and your mid-range people, your B players, even work even less. 25.9% of business expect talent availability to improve coming into 2026. We're going to see, but as we're learning and seeing, talent is getting highly specialized, and we're seeing a lot of business owners that are looking for very niche, specific, small, tight little bullseye type of experience. And that's getting harder to find, but sometimes that's not the right thing to do either. Sometimes you got to open that bullseye up and look for transferable skills. 22% of new hires leave within 1 year. That is a brutal truth, and that's a result of just a bad hiring process and not asking the right questions. Not what we're talking about today. If you want me to do a show on that, just give me a shout out and let me know. I'm happy to do that for you. And nearly 4 in 10 small businesses lose candidates due to a slow process. That came from a Robert Half study in 2024. So that, again, is part of the hiring process. But if you want to land these high impact, high horsepower individuals that bring you the capacity, you're definitely going to want to beef up your hiring process. So what are we talking about today? How do you know when it's time to hire for growth versus current revenue? What we like to say at Key Hire, and let me give you a little background first. So what happens is when you start a business, you hire your neighbor, you hire your neighbor's cousin, you hire your buddy, and everyone pitches in. And if you do a great job, that business, the trajectory of that business will hockey stick up, and it will eventually outgrow the capability, capacity, experience of some or all of the people who helped build it. And that looks like everyone pitching in, doing a great job. And then at a point, people start to struggle. People start to not deliver on time. You as a business owner are working longer and harder because you're jumping in and helping out in areas of the business where maybe you wanted to in the past but didn't need to, but now you need to because balls are dropping. You got balls in the air, everyone's pitching in, doing exactly what they need to do, helping where they have to. But now you start getting these key people that are getting more stuck in their area of the business, and you're having to go into, and others are having to go into that area of the business because they are struggling. And it's not an indictment on them. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. What it means is, it doesn't mean they're a bad employee either. What it means is the business has outgrown their capacity and their ability to effectively do their job. And more importantly, it has outgrown their capacity and ability to create process and procedure, which will enable your business to grow. One way to think of it is if your only input to growth is we just have to work longer and harder, put in more hours, that is not a process by which you can scale. That is just a road to burnout, redlining your engine, melting everything down, and driving people away because they can't take that pace and the demand you're putting on them. That's what we're talking about. And the mistake a lot of business owners will make when they do this is they will go out and hire. I'll give you an example. So I had a client one time. They were looking for a sales manager. They had talked to me and said, we're looking for a sales manager, but we think we have someone. We have someone that we're interviewing. And they were really impressed by this individual. They did about $10 million in revenue. And they had gone out and attracted a sales manager from the competition. And they interviewed this individual and they were impressed and they hired them and they said, this is the turning point for us. What they didn't realize was their competition was doing about 10, 12, $15 million a year in revenue as well. So after 6 months, they had hired the individual and they said, hey, how's your new sales manager? And they said, amazing. He's doing a great job. And I said, great. Where are revenues? $10 million. They were at $10 million a year in revenue, and they hired someone that could take them to $12 million a year in revenue. His capacity and experience was 10, 12, maybe $15 million a year in revenue. So the day that individual walked into the door of that business, he was 80, 90% maxed out in terms of his capacity. To put that another way, he had 10 or 20% left to offer that business. And when we hire and bring in a new leader to our business and we reimagine that role, we want to upgrade it, or we need to create a new role over someone who's struggling, which is another option. We always want to make sure we're baking in a ton of capacity. We want them to walk in with 40, 50, 60% capacity left. So a way to think about this is, and the way we reframe it with our clients all the time is, we're not hiring someone to run your $10 million a year business. It's not the goal. The goal is to hire someone to run your $50 million a year business that currently does $10 million in revenue. That's a switch. That's the change in the way you think about this that will push your company forward and get you over the hump and get you to start growing. The person who has $50 million capacity can build process and procedure, can train, can hire, has knowledge and experience of efficiencies and processes that you might not even have thought of. They can bring things to your business. Another example I often like to give is if I owned Corey's hardware store and we had 3 locations and each location did $1.5 million a year in revenue. So we had $4.5 million in revenue. And my general manager was ready for a change. He was maxed out. I've done everything I can do here. I need a change. And Home Depot down the road, who does $100 million a year in revenue, was looking for a general manager. Would the general manager of Corey's hardware store, who does $4.5 million a year in revenue, would they be a candidate that would be considered for that role at Home Depot? Think about it. The answer is no. Because what can my general manager of $4.5 million a year bring to Home Depot? Nothing. Home Depot is going to have to invest in training and retraining and undoing bad habits and teaching their systems. I can't go to Home Depot as a GM and say, I got a bunch of ideas. We should change the way we do things, because they are a huge corporation. And they're going to say, hey, great ideas, but do it our way. We've invested lots of money and time into developing these processes, and they work for our multi-million, billion-dollar a year company. Your $4.5 million a year processes might not be effective here. Now let's look at it the other way. If I was the assistant manager at Home Depot and I wanted to take on a role where I was in charge, and my GM or my store manager at Home Depot wasn't going anywhere anytime soon, and Corey's hardware store, $4.5 million, 3 locations, and $4.5 million in revenue, was hiring a general manager, would I be considered for that role? The answer is yes, because as an assistant general manager at Home Depot, I can bring tons of process and procedure, ideas, efficiencies, knowledge, and experience that Corey's hardware store never had before. And this is what we're talking about. We're not hiring for today's revenue. If I wanted to go get the assistant manager of Susie's hardware store that does $5 million a year as my GM, now I'm promoting someone who the day they walk in, they're into a leadership role, but the day they walk in the door, they're 90% maxed out in terms of their capacity. How far can they push me? I hope I've explained that well enough for you to understand the importance of hiring for capacity. So as we go through this, keep a mental checklist of maybe are you making some of these mistakes when we look at hiring, especially for key roles, leadership. It could be a key engineering role or something very specific to your business. How many of these mistakes are you making? Are you hiring the ghost of the person who held the role previously? And what I mean by that is, are you just trying to replace the person who resigned or you terminated because you thought they did a good job, but you haven't taken the time to maybe look and see, okay, well, maybe that individual did some hiring and they hired into some areas where they were weak or strong. Have you taken a good look at that role and said there were some gaps in their experience or performance that we might want to address with this next hire? Or are we just trying to clone the person who was there before? And if that person that was there before wasn't pushing you forward, we probably don't want to clone them. We probably want to hire someone with a little more capacity, a little more horsepower. Are you hiring for a role, or are you hiring for your trajectory or your growth? This is another area you need to consider. Are you looking to say, hey, can this person handle our revenue? Can they help me today? Or are you saying, can this person walk in and say, I got this, and start building my business for tomorrow. What are my goals? Where do I want to get to? And what does that person need to look like? Are you solving a staffing problem, or are you solving a strategy problem? And that's very similar. Are you looking to fill a hole? I'm stressed. I'm overworked. I need instant relief today, and this person can do the job I need today? Or are you saying, I'm stressed, I'm overworked, I need relief, but I'm trying to build a business, and if I get this right, I can get a person that will be with me 3, 5, 7, 10 years and help me get where I want to go and actually take things off my plate, versus I'm filling a hole, they can help me today, but in 6, 12 months, I'm going to be frustrated because they're not able to deliver on these growth goals, KPIs that I've set out. They might not even know what they are or how to address them. So that's something as well, right? We're not just looking to fill a hole. It's not a staffing problem. We're looking at a strategy problem. Don't let urgency override your end goal. Here's another challenge or problem you may have faced: the price tag. And we've talked about this a lot on the podcast before, but what is the price of this experience? And it ain't cheap. Experience has value. Don't ever, as a business owner, don't ever try to negotiate someone down in salary. Experience has value. If someone's willing to take less, and there are circumstances where they might take less. If it's a full remote job and they're currently in the office and they go, yeah, I'm at 110, but for 100 grand a year, and I get to work at home, I'll consider that. That happens. But if they're gainfully employed and your job, all things being equal, is very similar to what their current situation, and they're willing to take less, that's a red flag for both of you. Because I'll pay you less, but I'm going to take care of you down the road is usually the second half of that negotiation. And if you don't take care of them down the road and they realize they just took a job for less money and aren't getting the reward that you promised them, they're going to be real pissed off, upset, and they're going to start dusting off their resume and trying to get out of there. They won't take it for long. And if you're going to promise someone something down the road, please stay away from things like, don't worry, I'll take care of you. I can't give you any numbers, but it'll be worth it. These promises set a false expectation. What I mean by that is, when you negotiate an offer, if you advertise a salary range and say, this role pays between 90 and 110, here's what I can assume. And it's usually true. The business owner wants to pay 90, maybe 90 to 100. The person who sees that range is expecting 110. So right away, we've created a negotiation where, well, I know you can pay 110. Why don't you just pay me 110? And you're thinking, well, if I could keep low to mid range, that would be great for me. Now we have this $10,000 gap. That creates frustration between you and the person you're negotiating with. And it's a pain in the ass. We shouldn't even be negotiating that. There's so many ways around that, but we end up there. So when you promise someone, I will take care of you, I will make it worth your while, they're seeing, it's like Christmas vacation. They're seeing a new pool in their backyard and you're seeing jelly of the month. It's a bad deal. So make it clear, put it in writing and say, I'm going to take care of you, and here's what that looks like. And the way we always like to work with our clients to do deals is we want to keep you whole. So if you're coming in at a lower base, but we're offering you a bigger bonus ability, which can happen with sales roles and some leadership roles, we will lay it out and say, we're going to keep you whole for your first 6 months until you find your footing and can really impact the business. So if you used to make 110 and we are going to pay you 100 and your bonus ability was 10% a year. So let's say you're making $2,500 a quarter as a bonus where you are. Well, that puts you at 110 plus another 10 grand, 120. So we're going to give you $5,000 for your first 2 quarters as a guaranteed bonus to find your footing. And then you're going to kick into our incentive program, which allows you to make $5,000 too. And if you overshoot that, that's great. But you can't offer them the 10 grand less on base and the same incentive because we're still not keeping them whole. And that goes into our 7 candidate drivers. And that's a whole other topic about how to negotiate offers. But if you look at the drivers, if your benefits are more expensive, well, now there's more money out of their jeans. So that 100 grand is less than. If your 401k isn't as strong, that's less than. If you're offering less PTO, now you're taking more. So not only are you offering them 10 grand less, you're offering them another 10 grand less in terms of what you can't offer them or what their current employer is offering them. 7 candidate drivers is a whole other topic. But just be careful if you want to offer someone less, then you better really clearly outline and identify the wins that are coming up for them down the road. Don't do jelly of the month. So when we're hiring high impact, high horsepower leaders, let's make the assumption we've put together an amazing hiring process like Key Hire would do for you. And we've walked them through that, and we've minimized the opportunities to get it wrong, and we've maximized the probabilities of getting it right. And they feel great, and we feel great, and we put all the information on the table, and we're all making a very informed decision. This is the Key Hire way. Our people stick. They stick for years once we put them into a business because everyone knows what they're getting into. And we're making that offer for a higher horse. We're going to be offering more than we probably have ever offered anyone before. That's not an uncommon thing I hear from my business owners. I've never paid anyone this before. Or if they have paid someone this before, it was a bad hiring process. They didn't clearly outline the role, and that person just wasn't a fit for the business. So now they're kind of gun shy around, well, I paid someone this before and they didn't work out. Well, if you put everything in place, the right hiring process, and we go through the right interview process, and maximize the probabilities of the right hire, we're going to have to pay more. And if they're already making what our range is, sometimes we got to get outside that range, but the ROI is immediate. And we've talked about this before. When you hire for potential, you don't get the capacity, you don't get the experience, you don't get the horsepower. You get the potential of all of that stuff. And yes, those people are cheaper, but the ROI is long tail. You don't see results for 6, 12, 18, 24 months because they got to get up to speed. They got to learn the job before their creative juices get going, and they think they can come up with ways to help you. When you hire for experience, high horsepower, it's more expensive, but the impact is almost immediate. And I've used this quote before. One of my favorite clients of all time, we brought in a VP of operations, and he said to him, "Hey, I don't expect you to make changes right away, but if you could start before lunch, that would be great." And that, it's funny because it's true, because someone with high horsepower, especially in operations or sales, within a couple hours of being in the facility, they can find low-hanging fruit and immediate simple changes to start turning the department into the right direction. There's a lot of things they can do really quickly. So that the ROI on those people, yeah, the sticker shock might get you, but once we get the right person in that role, you're going to say, "Oh God, I would pay that all day long." They're a bargain at this point with all the improvements and changes and money they've saved or revenue they've generated, however you want to look at it. But they brought money to the bottom line. They're very aware, they're very professional, and they're helping our business. So that's what we talk about when we talk about high horsepower, high impact individuals. And those are some of the mistakes you might be making. So how do we get on track by doing this? The first thing we want to do is clearly define the role. So if it's a new role, great. Sit down and talk about don't make a wish list. Don't do a job description where it's a bunch of groupthink and people saying, Oh, if they could do this, it would be great. Oh, what about this? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we just start bulleting out all the things we wish they could do. That's not the right approach. The right approach is you sit down and you say, what are the 4 to 6 key pieces of experience? And experience isn't they're a nice person. Experience isn't they're organized. Experience looks like they have lean training and they've done 3 Six Sigma Blue Belt projects. That's experience. Experience would be they have led a team of 20 in a manufacturing environment. That's real experience. Those are the things we want to look for. And the one thing, do not overlook this. I hear people all the time, oh yeah, and if they have experience in our ERP or our CRM, that would be great. If they're going to be working in that ERP or CRM all day, make sure they have experience in yours or one that's real similar, because that's the constraint. You can hire someone's amazing, but if they're finger typing, hunting and pecking on a keyboard, trying to learn your CRM system, that's going to slow them down. Make sure they have experience. I've looked for sales managers and I've talked to people and I've asked them about CRM and they're like, oh yeah, I use CRM. Well, tell me how you use it. Well, I like to just put my thing in here, but I don't want I feel like it's Big Brother. I feel like they're watching me. That's not my guy. I want someone who says, yeah, love CRM. If it's used effectively, here's how we use it. Here's how I teach my people to use it. I'm a super user. I spend 3 hours a day in the CRM. That's the person I want. We don't want if they have it, it would be nice. If that's the constraint, if that's the mechanism to get their knowledge into your business is through that computer, and they don't know how to use your computer, you got a problem. So be clear about what is the experience you need. Number one. Yeah, and if you're upgrading a role, that applies. Someone left, we don't want to just kind of hire the ghost of the old person. We want to take an opportunity and say, yeah, they were really good here, but maybe they weren't so good over here. And we've hired someone who's really good in this area. So if they don't need to have that much experience over here anymore, it's going to shift, and make sure we're having those conversations. Then we want to talk about our 3 to 5 year goal. Where do we want this department and our business to be? Where are we currently? We're at $7.4 million a year. Great. In the next 5 years, we want to be at 20 million. Perfect. So that's the capacity we're talking about. We want someone who has experience running a similar department to ours in a business that's doing $20 million a year or more. Not 500 million, because those get very siloed. We're looking for a sweet spot. Maybe it's 20 to 30, something like that. Or maybe they're in a big Fortune 500 today. They've been there for 3 or 4 years, but they came from a small company and they're thinking, I don't like the corporate world. I don't have the impact I'm looking for. I want to come back to a smaller company where I can really flex my muscles and have an impact on the business. Ideally, that's the person we're looking for. It's kind of who we always specialize in looking for, is people that started in a small entrepreneurial business. Maybe their career path took them to a large company, and now they're saying, okay, I want to go back. I've got all this knowledge, and I know I can't have the influence in this huge company that I'm ready to have. So I want to go take it to a smaller company and really have impact and do something great for them. So that's the first thing we need to do. That's kind of part of our avatar building process that you've heard me talk about. But we want to understand the key experiences, not a wish list. The capacity, where are we today? Where do we want to go? And what's that sweet spot we're hiring for, that level of experience? Then we want to put together an effective hiring process. And I'm not going to go too deep with the hiring process because we've done episodes on that. And I could do another one. But your hiring process is your biggest marketing tool. A real easy way to think about hiring is whoever gets to the finish line first with the best offer wins. And I've heard people say, well, we'll just throw an offer out there and see what they come back with. What they come back with 9.9 times out of 10 is, I've taken another offer, because that's the market. If you're interested in someone, so is at least one other business. If they're active on the market, they're talking to other companies. And if other companies offer them a better hiring process, a better candidate experience, get to the finish line efficiently, and put a real strong offer on the table, that business will win 9 times out of 10. So make sure we're thinking about that role. When someone leaves, I know it's stressful. I know I hear my clients tell me all the time, yeah, like this is urgent. We got to fill this right away. And I get it. But you can't make the right person appear when you want. They will appear when they're ready to appear. And that's your job, is to go beat the bushes and talk to people and ask people and interview people until that right person appears in front of you. And once they appear, you have to act. You have to move fast. This is always kind of blown my mind, where a business owner will say, like, this is super urgent. Great, I found a candidate. Do you have time tomorrow to interview him? Oh, I'm pretty busy for the next week. Can we get him in maybe next Friday? I'm like, no, they'll be off the market next Friday. If it's a priority, push something else. I'm sure there are things that you can say, hey, something's come up. Can I push this to the end of the day? Or can we push it till tomorrow? Or can we do it first thing in the morning? If you have the right person standing in front of you, because you know that because you've identified the experience and capacity they need, we're supposed to be putting together an A+ hiring process and interview process. And if you push them out a week and a half, they're gone. That's not a good hiring process. A good hiring process is, hey, this has been a great conversation. How much time would you need to make arrangements to come in and visit with me? Oh, heck, I could be there in 2 days. I will clear my calendar to make time for you. What time would you like to come in? Or I have an opening in my calendar from 3 to 5. How does that sound? Don't push them. That should be back in the mistakes section. But these are the things we need to do, right? Clearly define that role. Think about it. Take the time. Don't rush this process. Sometimes from signing a client to an ass in a seat, key hire, we've got it done in 6 weeks before. And 6 weeks is an amazing amount of time. If you think about this, that gives us 1 week to kind of do our diligence and put together our strategy. That's 1 week in the market. Our interview process is 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We're up to 4 weeks from interview to offer. And then they got to give 2 weeks notice. 1, 2. That's as tight a turn as you're going to be able to do, unless someone falls in your lap. Someone says, I have a friend, I know a person, we should interview them. Sometimes that works out, but don't interview that person until you're crystal clear on what it is you're wanting from them, because you'll fall into the trap of, wow, this person's really impressive. We need to get them on our team. And 6 months from now, you wonder, what the heck are they doing around here? I don't even know what job they do anymore, because they don't have the capacity and experience that you needed for your business. I hope that makes sense. So once you start this journey, I've given you my notice. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. At best, you're going to have a 4-week gap. If you get started on this process right away and you start searching for the right person, the quickest amount of time you're going to make this hire 6 weeks. So you're going to have, if they give you 2 weeks, you got 4 weeks where you have no coverage. It's going to be longer than that. That's best case scenario. Expect 8 to 10 weeks of no coverage, because the right people just don't often appear. Those 6 week turnarounds do not happen very often. When they do, it's amazing, but it doesn't happen very often. It often takes longer than that, right? Usually double, 3 months, call it, from the time you start till the time you get a butt in the seat. So if you're impatient and you're feeling that pain, I get it, but take the pain and get the right person in for a long-term solution versus just putting a butt in a seat, hoping it works out, and then 6, 9, 12 months later, you're repeating and you're in the same situation, but it's worse now because you've missed a year of opportunity, you've missed a year of growth, you've missed a year of pushing your company in the right direction. You've had a year of someone like stomping on the brakes and not you're actively stopping you from growing if you've made that wrong hire. And we don't want to do that. We want to put the right person in there so you as a business owner can say, whew, I know, like, and trust this individual. They have the skills and experience and capacity I need. I'm going to turn them loose. I'll check in with them a couple times a week, but I will just trust and know that they're going to make my business better and help me get where I want to go. I hope that is helpful. Don't forget, while you're out there, hit me up on LinkedIn. Ask me to connect. I'd love to. Just let me know you're listening to the pod. We'd love to hear from you. Keep the comments rolling. We seem to get most of our comments on LinkedIn, which we're super happy about. So keep them coming. We love when the community is active and talking, and we love everyone who's a part of the community. We're doing this for our small business owners. So get active. Let us know what you're thinking out there. Let us know if there's any topics you want us to cover. And we'll be waiting for you. We'll be waiting for your comments. I'm Corey Harlock. I've been your host today. And until next time, stop grinding, start growing.